Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of BlueTruth New York Rangers Talk with myself, Brian Attard, powered by the Sports Box. You can find me all over your socials, on Facebook, where we stream live, on Twitter, and of course the YouTube channel where we post the videos after the fact. So you're just seeing me for the first time, feel free to find me all around your socials and make me one of your favorite follows. We will be keeping an eye on the Islanders game. It is 0-0, 10:25 left in the first period. So obviously we're all rooting for Tampa. No question about that. Maybe, I don't know. But there is absolutely, a lot to talk about tonight. So, without any further ado, we will kick that off. And I would be remiss if I didn't start the show wishing a very happy birthday to fellow Ranger fan, best friend Scott Medio, turning 37 today. Best man at his wedding, best man at mine. There you see him in my wedding picture. Go to Rangers games all the time. There's the next generation coming up. There's Braden and Harrison. We played hockey together growing up. He's kind of my enforcer in many ways. He allows me to run my mouth a lot more than I could if he wasn't there. So, the one playoff game in my life that I missed was to be the best man at his wedding during Game 7 of the 2012 series against Washington. Now, the Rangers won that. Oh, is it 1-0? I think we have a goal. I'll wait on that. Yep, 1-0. A goal by, I don't know who the hell scored that goal. I don't really care. Yanni Gourde, 1-0 Tampa Bay. Good. Anyway, so the Game 7 against Washington, the Rangers won that game 2-1. They scored an early goal in that game, and of course, we had the Rangers goal song playing on the dance floor, which was awesome. That was obviously a lot of fun. So again, I just want to wish my best friend Scott a very happy 37th birthday, you old son of a bitch. He's younger than me. Anyway, so... another thing on this June 17th, the 27th anniversary of the Stanley Cup Parade in New York City, an all-time great day in the history of the franchise. And really, the size of the crowd was something that was just unbelievable. It meant so much to so many people. And, they say that, hockey is the fourth sport and, whatever. I mean, there were at least 1 million people there. You can see, the pain is over. I'll never forget that sign. And, I've said this before on this show, and I will say it again. It will never be like 1994 again. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but everything about that team and that year, it's just forever held in rarefied air. And I just don't think that it can be replicated. So, God willing, we have more parades to go to in the future, hopefully more than one, although I'll take one at this point. It's just not going to be like that again. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine, and we're okay. We're good to go there. A couple of Flyers fans, giving me the Go Islanders in the comments. I'm not going to acknowledge them, obviously. However, what I will acknowledge is a very disturbing development in Ranger fandom, and that is Rangers fans openly rooting for the Islanders. I don't know what is going on at all, because are you serious? Under no circumstance is it permissible for a New York Rangers fan to be rooting for the New York Islanders in a playoff series against a non-rival, full stop. And I have absolutely no idea what the hell is going through this fan base right now when I'm on social media and I see that, oh, I'm cheering for the Islanders. Oh, I want to see a local team win. No, you don't. No, you don't. I don't know if it's, you just don't remember what things were like, and maybe, if you were a Rangers fan growing up in the 70s, you definitely hate the Islanders. In the 80s, you definitely hate the Islanders. Ranger fan growing up in the 90s, you probably hate the Devils more. It's just a matter of, who was beating you at that time. Now, I live in South Jersey, so my number one enemy is the Flyers because this is where I am. Having said that, okay, no. The answer is no. There is no logical explanation for any Rangers fan to be rooting for the New York Islanders. I don't want to see the Islanders win a raffle, let alone a championship. Do you think that New York Islanders fans, as small an amount as they are, because there's not that many of them, there really aren't. They're like locusts. They're like cicadas. They come around every 17 years. They pop up because their team thinks they're doing something. They'll be back in their hole soon when this series is over. I'll tell you that right now because they're not going to beat this team. But anyway, do you think that Islanders fans were rooting for the Rangers in 2012 or 2014 or 2015? Do you think they were rooting for the Rangers after they were quickly dispatched 22-3 in 4 games in the first round of 1994? Do you not remember the chants of 1940, and do you not realize that, God forbid, this stupid team find a way to win this asterisk Stanley Cup, that 1994 becomes the new 1940? Because it will have been 27 years and they would have won one more recently. All of these wonderful things. We on this show the last couple of weeks, we did, the Bateau goal, Messier's Game 6. The 3 days ago was the anniversary of the Stanley Cup, the parade. We just saw the pictures. I don't get it. The answer is no. Okay, there is no way, shape, or form you can root for the New York Islanders in a playoff series. Not full stop. Last year, they played the Flyers in a playoff series. I had no rooting interest. I hate them both. And frankly, an Islander win was better for me than the Flyers advancing further than they did because of where I live. It doesn't matter. Do you think that Mets fans root for the Yankees? No, of course not. So all of these Rangers, and maybe it's because there's this section of the base that, keeps clamoring for grit and all this stuff, and the Islanders just embody some of that. So maybe like they see a little, and they want to support. No, absolutely not. I was on with Jim and Eddie from Blue Shirt Underground earlier this week, and I said I'd root for the Mujahideen before I root for the New York Islanders to do anything. I was disgusted when I saw there's a Twitter handle, a Rangers fan for Isles. I'm thinking to myself, like, what the blue hell is wrong with you? First, it's got to be a troll account. There is no way. You are a strange kind of masochist if you're rooting for this hockey team. Okay, my Facebook profile right now is a Tampa Bay Lightning logo. I am rooting extremely hard for Tampa Bay Lightning, not because I want them to win, because I want these bastards to lose. God forbid they actually get there, and God forbid they do something. And we have to live under that horror. And all the Rangers fans on Long Island, and let me reiterate to you, the biggest story in New York hockey right now are the things we're talking about on this show tonight. Gerard Gallant, the brand new coach of the Rangers. Go get the Newsday from the other day, which is a Long Island paper. Little scribble at the bottom about the Islanders. Guess what? Gerard Gallant's big fat face on the back page. The New York Rangers are the number one hockey story in New York, 24/7, 366. Nobody gives a shit about what the Islanders are doing. Nobody does. Except for the 14,000 people that are in that building who don't fill that building unless the game's important or the Rangers are there. Joke. Oh, but they sing the national anthem. Great. Good for them. You know the words to the national anthem. Congratulations. Under no circumstance do the Rangers fans ever root for the New York Islanders or the New Jersey Devils or the Philadelphia Flyers for that matter. I was disgusted. Comments coming in. Tom Scavetta from Review and Preview. Let's go Lightning. You damn right. I'd go out and buy a jersey tomorrow if I could find one around here. You can't do it. You cannot do it. There are if you're up in New York, there's two teams specifically that you do not root for, the Devils and the Islanders. Where I am, it's the Flyers as well because of where I live. And I hate those people. God, they're stupid. I can't. Savior, if they're rooting for the Islanders and they were never Rangers fans, absolutely right. Let us not forget the only reason the New York Islanders have a fan base was because there was a sect of Ranger fans who in 1972 decided they were going to jump ship to go root for the Islanders. I don't want to hear that. I have no respect for that. I don't want Islander fans rooting for the Rangers under any circumstance. Screw you. You know what? I respect that a lot more. I respect an Islanders fan who hates the Rangers. I respect those idiots that get the anti-Ranger. You know what? That's fine. You should hate the Rangers. I hate the Islanders. That's how it works. It's professional sports. You got your squad and there's everybody else, but there's a couple you just really don't like. You want to listen, I live in South Jersey. A couple of years ago, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, was an all-time bottom 5 moment in professional sports for me. I have personal friends of mine who I hold very dear to me. I was happy for their happiness. I was not happy at all that happiness came from the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. So if you live up in New York, you live on Long Island, yes, you probably have Islander fan friends. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Just remind them that their team stinks and they're never going to do anything. Hopefully not. And you can say, hey, you know what? I'd be happy if they were happy. I can buy that. That doesn't mean you root for them to be happy. It doesn't mean you root for this horrible potential outcome, which will affect you and millions of others like you until it happens for us. Not to mention they win a 5th one, then they have more than the Rangers in a much shorter period of time. No. The answer is no. Ron, go Tampa. Henry from Review and Preview. The only team I can root for the Islanders to beat is the Flyers and maybe the Devils, but even then, I'd really want both teams to lose. Yes, correct. I had no rooting interest in the Islanders-Flyers series last year. None. Because either way, one of those scumbag organizations was going into the 3rd round and getting closer and closer to a Stanley Cup. I had no way around that. I didn't care who it was. It's terrible. Tom Scavetta, my dad's the same way. It's gross. I question about my hate for the Islanders. Why? No. You are a New York Rangers fan. That means very clearly you hate the Islanders and you hate the Devils. And mostly you hate the Flyers. Like I find myself like, I don't really hate the Capitals. I don't have a reason to. I don't even really hate the Penguins. I don't have a reason to. And then Ron brings up Boston. Maybe it's just my generation, but I never really had a reason to hate Boston. And maybe that's because I wasn't in the 70s, like when they had those, playoff matchups. I was rooting for Boston wholeheartedly against the Islanders. Of course I would. The Islanders? Listen here, man. No, absolutely not. I live on Long Island, 25-year season ticket holder. Islanders can't lose enough games. Look, I've been known to say Rangers playoff games are nothing to me but stress and nausea. I get no enjoyment out of them. And I mean every single word of that because the outcome is so important to me. And it's annoying that I find myself having a little bit of that stress and nausea right now because God forbid this team actually did something for their scumbag fan base. No. New York City is a New York Rangers town, period. Always has been, always will be. Where would they even have a parade? Down some side street in Hempstead behind a Walmart? Because the Rangers have them down the Canyon of Heroes. It's not going to be where the Islanders have one, but they're also not going to have one because Tampa's going to win the series. But regardless, if they don't, then Vegas or Montreal will beat them, God willing. But God forbid you, a Rangers fan, root for the Islanders. I have absolutely no respect for that. Just turn your fan card in, just stop. Because you never were. Halfway Crook. There ain't no such thing as Halfway Crook. It's one of my favorite songs. Absolutely not. Savior, the Rangers franchise let the Islanders be born. You think the Maple Leafs let another team be created in Toronto? I hear you. I get it. But again, Savior, the genesis of that fan base were people in 72 and 73 that left the Ranger base because this was all Rangers forever, going back to 1926. It's 50 years almost. So at some point, somebody made a conscious decision to take this off their head and put a stupid Islander on logo. And their family grew from there. It is what it is. I'm not saying don't root for your team if they're your team. I'm not rooting for them and don't root for mine. Sickening. Absolutely sickening. It is not okay. It is not okay at all. Take this time to look inside your soul and say, I'm just going to stop. Okay. No, I can't root for this team. I hate them. I hate their fans. Go Tampa. All will be forgiven. but it is not okay. It is just not okay. And that's the opening of tonight's show. And I hope I didn't, let too much out there, but I don't understand it. I don't understand it. What joy you could possibly have as a fan of the New York Rangers to see one of your primary rivals doing well. No. Earmuffs for the kids. Fuck the Islanders. I'm never going to root for the Islanders. I have friends that are Islander fans. I don't care. I'm going to put my interest ahead of yours 15 times out of 10, and my interest is your team not winning jack ever again, especially at the expense of my team. Still 1-0, 4:40 left, first period. Hopefully they keep it. Anyway, happier times are here again for the New York Rangers. Gerard Gallant becomes the 36th head coach in Rangers history. Played 615 games in the league. Got his first pro coaching job in the IHL with Fort Wayne. He was the coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets in 2004. Was the Jack Adams finalist with Florida in 2016. He was the coach of the Golden Knights in their first season going to the finals, won the Jack Adams Award, and just came off winning the World Championship with Canada in the championships this year with really a team that really wasn't very good. I don't think not a lot of superstars. I think Connor Brown was like their main guy. So, listen, if you watch the show, if you watched episodes 1 and 2, and there'll be plenty more after this one, this was my guy from the jump, okay? He was the one that I thought would be the right fit for the Rangers at this time moving forward. So let's talk about it. A lot of the criticisms of him was that he had 3 other coaching tenures, and in each of those spots, he didn't make it to finish year 3. In Columbus, 03-04 to 06-07, 2 seasons of missed playoffs, didn't really go anywhere. 15 games into that third year, he was out of a job. He didn't get another shot at a head coaching opportunity until 2014. He took over the job in Florida. He was there for 3 years. They were 6th place in year 1, huge, massive jump in year 2, finished in first place in that division. He was the runner-up for the Jack Adams Award that year. He was fired 22 games into that third year, and the team did not get back into the actual playoffs, not the qualifying round, but the actual playoffs until this year. So it's been a little bit of time since he left there for them to actually get back to where he left them. And he famously, if you remember the picture, had to go get his own cab. They didn't give him the decency to get him a ride to the airport. Kevin, we're going to be talking about those short stints and why that is, and why I really wouldn't worry about it for a couple of reasons, but I really wouldn't even worry about it. But we'll talk about that. The last stint was in Las Vegas, 17-18 to 19-20. He led that expansion team to the Stanley Cup final in his first year there, won the Jack Adams Award as the best coach in the National Hockey League. The second year, he lost that first round series in 7 to the Sharks. There was that controversial major penalty call in Game 7, led to a huge Sharks comeback, and the Knights did not make it through that. He was the coach for that. Going into the next season, he was fired halfway through. There were some rumors of it got kind of personal with Kelly McCrimmon, who was the GM of Vegas at the time. So Gerard Gallant, now the coach of the New York Rangers. So what does this mean moving forward? So I go back to the tenures, I don't really look at Columbus. That was his first head coaching job. That team obviously wasn't very good coming in. It wasn't as if he had a very talented roster that he didn't do anything with. In Florida, that team languished forever. And then he gets the job, and by year 2, he's got that young Panther team winning a division and getting a home playoff round. Now, they didn't get out of that round. But a lot of young players, Alexander Barkov, who we'll talk about, Jonathan Huberdeau, who Lafreniere has been compared to, a lot of those guys flourished under a guy like Gerard Gallant. And everything that you hear is that the players play for him. He's good with the young kids. He's good with veterans. He was a star in the league. So he knows how that star mind works and can coach to it. But a lot of quotes are that, he'll sit anybody. It doesn't matter what your name is, to quote The Rock. If Artemi Panarin's not playing well, I don't think Gerard Gallant's going to think twice about benching him. And maybe you need that sometimes. Jaromir Jagr was quoted as saying, I'm going to read this verbatim, he is tough but friendly, and he is honest. Not only the top guys, but with everyone. No matter who you are, it's going to be good for the players, and the star players are going to like it because he knows how to relate to them. And the reason for that is that he was a very good player. He was a star in the NHL, playing with a star like Steve Yzerman. So he knows what the stars need. Nobody can really tell you that. It's something you have to feel. It's something you have to know. You need the personal experience, and that's a big advantage. Now, having said that, it wasn't as if other ex-star players were not rumored to be head coaches. Look, Rod Brind'Amour just re-upped in Carolina today to, I think, a 3-year deal, spurning Seattle, which makes absolute sense. You're in Carolina, you got a cup contender and a very, very bright future. That team's going to be a problem for the Rangers for years to come. Rick Tocchet's still out of the job. He may end up in Seattle. We'll see. So it isn't, yes, it's good. It is good that he can relate to star players. But again, for me, I look at what he did with Florida and I say, wow, like, you were the guy that got the most out of Barkov and the most out of Jagr at that point. Like, two guys that were just at such opposite ends of their careers. And both of them want to go through a wall for you. He was the perfect fit for this Rangers team. And it's exactly, to me, that I don't want to hear your comments too, but it's exactly the type of coach that you need at this point in the cycle. That's why I wanted him. So if you look back at David Quinn as 1-0 Tampa, end of one. If you look back at David Quinn as purely a developmental coach, no problem with that. He did his job. He did quite a bit. But there is a shelf life to that. And a guy like Gerard Gallant is the next natural step. Excuse me. Ron Esposito says, I think Kreider flourishes under him. Maybe. I'm more looking at guys like Lafreniere and Kakko and Kravtsov and those young players as guys that I hope take that next step, because that's going to be what is the crux of this team moving forward. And Ron, I understand why your concern is Kreider. He's signed to a very long deal for a very long time for quite a bit of money. And had they known they were going to get Lafreniere first overall, they would not have given him that deal. I have no doubt. But they did. It is what it is. He won't finish it. Towards the end, there's some ways they can get out of it. But I am bowled over happy with the hire. This is the exact guy that I wanted. I know there's some other Rangers fans. I know, again, I speak with Jim Schmiedenberg a lot. Very good friend of mine. Guys over at Blue Shirt Underground. Follow them. They're awesome. I love those guys. He was more of a Bob Hartley guy. And I knew what he meant and why. I've seen this guy do it now on a couple of teams that had no business being as good as they were. So you can attribute that to his tutelage and how he was. He's not a Tortorella. He's not one of those. It's not that, break people down type stuff. Like he's known as a player's coach and they're going to want to play for him. And I think think back to all those things with Quinn, where if Quinn was developing the kids, awesome. Thank you. But he butted heads with the top end of this roster so much in how they wanted to play offense. And I think that he just wasn't. Quinn was a college guy, so he was always good at, in Boston, he was dealing with the kids. And I don't necessarily know that he translated it well to coaching talented veterans. So because of the Rangers' mix of talent, and age, it was never going to be a forever for him. He was hired to be fired, and he knew that, which is fine. It's okay. This, I think, is an absolute perfect fit. And I'll tell you right now, as currently constituted, they're a playoff team next year. If they're not, it's not good. It's not good at all. They're good enough to, and if I followed the draft analyst, Steve Cornianos, who's been on the Sports Blocks with us before talking draft. And he said, I think like 57% of their games this year were against the top 12 teams in the league. It's not like that. So they're going to be better off the jump next year anyway. But you then add in another year of Lafreniere, another year of Kakko, Kravtsov playing a full year, another year of Adam Fox, who we'll talk about. A lot of these kids just really getting their shots. Still a young team, but Arrows pointed due north, guys. I mean, like, you can feel my excitement. I talk to you guys. I can feel yours. We're looking good on Broadway. Very, very happy there. Xavier says, Gallant was my first choice. Players will play hard for this coach. Offensively, I think they will take a step up. And, Xavier, to that point, they were, if you think back to the start of the year, like everybody's like, oh, the Rangers are much-watch hockey. They're going to be so much fun to watch offensively. And then it didn't really happen. Like it took the teams, Zibanejad primarily, but it took the team so much longer to kind of get their sea legs under them. And if you think back even to the year before, like they didn't really start like pushing until like February. So in a normal season, like, you hope that you don't have that start where, everyone's kind of struggling to, and again, they haven't really had a preseason, since the start of 19. I think a full training camp will help this team a lot because they're so young. With a new coach, putting in new systems, again, I'm very bullish on. They are a playoff team next year. They are. Kevin, if they win 50% more one-goal games of what they did them in this year, absolutely. And again, a young team, you're right. There's going to be more experience on the team. And again, I really do think that Gallant was the right guy for the job. And, he got that first interview because he was going off to Latvia for the World Championships. It was like, they're talking to Tocchet and they're doing their due diligence. I wonder, and I've thought about this, I wonder if it was still Gorton and Davidson, if Quinn would have gone. I'm of the belief Quinn would have gone regardless. I think that they're at that point in the cycle, so they would have made the coaching change. But I wonder if this is the kind of guy that would have been hired by Gorton and JD, simply because he doesn't seem like a yes man. Not that Quinn was. He may have been, but it wasn't whatever. He's butted heads elsewhere. And I think that that's what's led to his, early demise in the role. But let's just be honest here. If we get 3 years out of this guy, they're going to be 3 pretty good years. Like, it's okay. Like, everyone's always, oh, he might not be. David Quinn was just here, 3 years, I think. So, let's not get ahead of ourselves and worry about the back end of this deal. It's not like it's against the cap or anything. I think he's making 3.5, but who cares what he's making? They'll make $1 billion. Ain't my money. And you can get rid of him if it's not working. I hope that that's not the case, but realistically, whatever. I think they're a playoff team next year. We will see. I see no reason why they wouldn't be. Keep your comments coming in, guys. Appreciate the interaction. So a big part of the show, I definitely want to talk about the hole at center, because until it gets filled, it's a primary concern. And when you look at the young talent on the team, there is a theme. You have Alexis Lafreniere, first overall pick. You have Capo Caco, second overall pick. And you have Vitaly Kravtsov, 9th overall pick. And the characteristic that all 3 of those players have is that they are wingers. They have not really been in a position to take a center in the draft. So here we are. I don't look at any of those picks and say I would have done something differently, because you make those picks with the information that you know at the time. Okay. Kravtsov was the highest ceiling guy at that point. Kravtsov was very high on their draft board. I want them to trust their draft board, or else why are they there? So for all the Joel Farabees who've had a little better pro careers so far, Oliver Walsh, don't care. Kravtsov, I want high ceiling guys, and Kravtsov was that, and still is that. But they have just a massive organizational hole at center, and they have to fill it. So let's talk about a couple of names that could fill the hole. First and foremost, Jack Eichel. Door number 1. Rumors are that the Rangers might be out on him for a variety of reasons. Now, does anybody really believe that they're out on Jack Eichel already? Are they concerned about the injury? I've seen a lot of that among Ranger fans. But, with him, I was always price dependent on him. And what I mean by that is, yeah, like I'll take him. I'm not going to go over the top to go pay for him. Like if this is going to be a deal that makes sense, then I'll do it. But it wasn't something that no matter what, like I'll give you whatever you want. It wasn't one of those deals for me. So Tom says, feels weird not having a top pick. Well, I hope we don't. I hope we don't pick high for a very long time, Tom. I hope we have nice picks in the 20s, the late 20s, maybe even the 30s. There's talk that he might get traded before the playoffs are even over. Like it just seems like Buffalo's done with him, that they want to move on. Okay, but that should be good for potential buyers unless you're getting into like a bidding war. You hear LA's out on him. You hear Anaheim's aggressive for him. Listen, okay. I told you guys my deal for Jack Eichel 2 shows ago. I'll tell you what it is again now. Very simple. Ryan Strome, Vitaly Kravtsov, Zach Jones, 15th overall pick. Done. That's all I'm doing. Makes sense for Buffalo. Makes sense for the Rangers. If that's not enough, broke. I ain't got it. I'm not giving you more than that. I didn't have to. And again, if Anaheim wants to beat that deal, go for it. But by no means do I believe that as we sit here on June the 17th, 27 years to the day of the Stanley Cup Parade. Happy birthday, Scott, by the way. I mentioned that again. That the Rangers are out on Jack Eichel. Maybe they are. And maybe it's the injury, and maybe it's because they don't want to get into a bidding war. Okay. Fine. It's not as if he has a no trade. It's not as if he's going to dictate where he goes. They're going to send him wherever they're going to get their best offer. And to be honest with you, I think they're better off getting more established talent because the fan base in Buffalo's probably had enough. Like they've now done this a bunch of times, and it's an ownership problem, which doesn't the Pagulas don't affect the Buffalo Bills, but they do the Buffalo Sabres. Whatever. So, the Rangers are absolutely, positively, no question about it, big game hunting this offseason, and their primary needs a center. Eichel's absolutely the hot name because it's a very public situation in Buffalo. When you're in the end of season interviews and you're like, well, I'll figure it out wherever that may be. Like, that's not really a ringing endorsement if you want to go back to Buffalo. Everybody knows you want out. So, whatever. But I bet you a good sum of money that Jack Eichel is not a Buffalo Sabre in October. I'd be shocked if he was. Probably fake an injury if he was. He wants out. I don't blame him. He's been there a while. They've done nothing to help him. Hasn't made a playoff appearance to my recollection. I'm pretty sure he hasn't. So, I understand where he wants to look out for number one and wants to try to go do something. But, if you end up in Anaheim, it's not like they're super close either. They're picking third. So, that brings us to door number 2. And door number 2 is Alexander Barkov. He's a UFA after next season. And could Florida look to trade him if they can't sign him? Again, he is linked to Gerard Gallant. He flourished under Gallant, under his tutelage in Florida. With Barkov being a UFA at the end of the season, might he want to find his way to New York to pair back up with the coach who he did so well with? Barkov in his own right was a second overall pick, same as Eichel was. Barkov is the best player nobody talks about because he plays in Florida and nobody goes to the games. Extremely skilled player. He checks off all the boxes, immediately fills the need for the Rangers. Now the question then becomes, are you trying to acquire him now? Or do you wait to go to free agency and then try your luck? Now, again, they have cap space right now. However, that cap space will dry up. So if I'm Florida, I need to get a deal done this offseason. And if I don't, I'm probably trading him. Not because I want to, but because I don't want this hanging over my team all year. And I can't lose him for nothing. So Barkov is a name that we as Rangers fans need to really keep an eye on that situation in Florida. Now, remember, they're paying Bobrovsky $10 million a year for God knows how many more years. So, and he sucks. He looks terrible. Like, he looks so bad that they drafted Spencer Knight. They had the Chris Driedger, whatever, pronounce a stupid name, playing over him in the playoffs. So, like, if you're Barkov, I don't see any reason you want to go sign in Florida. Like, I think you want out. Come to New York. Be our center. Be a franchise center for the New York Rangers. Now, what helps Florida is what helps Tampa, is what helps Vegas, is what helps Dallas, is what helps Nashville, is the no state tax. So when Sergei Bobrovsky's cashing $10 million checks in Florida, it's $10 million after state tax. Taxes in New York and the Northeast generally are much higher than they are in Florida. I'm not making any political statements, just being dead honest with you. These are just numbers. So level playing field, you need to make more elsewhere to meet that. It's a flat cap world, so I'd be curious to see what he does. But if he is available, the New York Rangers need to be very, very, very active in trying to make him a piece of this team moving forward. And on the BlueTruth Twitter feed, if you haven't followed us, please do. We appreciate that. Put up a poll. What center would you be willing to give up more to get in a trade? And Barkov running away, 81.3% of the vote, that Ranger fans, at least answering the poll, would give more to get Barkov than Eichel. I don't think that's a talent comment. I think that's they have some neck issues. Here says he loves the lifestyle. Well, New York's a fun place to be too, especially now we're getting out of the pandemic. So we shall see. It sounds as if he wouldn't have any Russian connections here too on our current team. So again, keep an eye on Barkov. But if Eichel is door number 1 and Barkov is door number 2, who could be door number 3 as a long-term center option for the New York Rangers? And I'm going to propose a third name. Who is the third man? If you're wrestling fans, NWO. Who could be a mystery guy or one who's not really getting a lot of play right now that could end up with the Rangers if they play their cards right? And that player is Elias Pettersson, center for the Canucks, 5th overall pick in the 2017 draft. They wanted him badly. That was the year they took Elias Anderson at 7 following the anti-rant to Derek Stepan, Tony DeAngelo trade. They picked 7. They wanted Pettersson badly. Could not get up to get him. Now, here's what's interesting about Elias Pettersson. He is 22 years old. He's already an elite player in the league. The Canucks are up against it. The Canucks have approximately $14 million in open cap space for next season as currently constituted. And not only is Pettersson a RFA, so is Quinn Hughes, their stud defenseman. So, you ain't getting that done for $14 million. Even if you give them bridge deals, I don't think you get that done. So the Rangers hold all the cards here because you have the space to make an offer. And you guys are going to bring up, what about draft pick compensation? It's not as bad as it used to be. If the Rangers offer for Pettersson is $8.726 million a year or less, the comp they'd have to give Vancouver is a 1, a 2, and a 3. You'd absolutely give that for Elias Pettersson. No question. If the offer is between 8.726 and 10.9, the comp is 2 1s, a 2, and a 3. You wouldn't trade 2 1s, a 2, and a 3 for Pettersson? Of course you would. And I don't think they would need to go above 10.9, nor would they, because it's a flat cap. But if they had to go to 10.9 or more, it is 4 number 1 picks. You're going to say, Brian, that's a lot to give up for a player. I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't think they need to do that. I think they'd give him the max without going over, like if the price is right, to stay within the comp, being 2 1s, a 2, and a 3. And I think you put Vancouver in a very difficult spot, because then I don't think they can sign them both. And you know what? Okay. You're going to give the money to Pettersson? Cool. We're going to offer Sheet Quinn Hughes now, because you can't keep them both. And we know this. Simple math. You own them. They're in a bad spot. And then the questions will be, well, Brian, I mean, don't you run the risk of that happening to the Rangers? Yes and no. The Rangers are a destination team. If we fast forward a couple of years and Kakko decides he wants less responsibility, wants to go play in Vancouver, go play somewhere else, okay. Then you'd be, in essence, trading Kakko for Pettersson all day long. And I love Kakko. Lafreniere ain't leaving. He's going anywhere. Fox ain't going anywhere. Money aside, they're not going anywhere. So keep in mind that, again, what you're hoping when you're giving these picks up is that these are going to be picks in the 20s. Or the 30s, because you're winning Stanley Cups, or you're contending and you're in the Final Four, like the Schmuck Islanders team is right now. Which, by the way, is actually good for the Rangers, because the Devils pick that they traded Palmieri as Zajac for will be lower. Again, 1-0. We've just started the second period. Go Tampa. I would be very interested in Elias Pettersson. I would love to see the Rangers, in the position that they're in, make a move like that. The biggest decision over the next 12 months is what to do with Mika Zibanejad. Because, let's be honest, it's not going to be cheap, and it's not going to be short. He's got 1 year left on his deal in the 5 area. I forget the exact number. I should know it. Whatever. It's a bargain right now. Whatever you give him, you're going to be paying for past performance. That's just reality. Because you're going to have to give him 7 years. And he's 28. Okay. Back half of that deal, not going to be as good as the front half of that deal. And who knows how long the flat cap goes. And you still have to sign your own. The biggest reason why Zibby is not wearing the captain's C is because, dude, you don't have a contract. And if you think it somehow helps the team in negotiations to put the C on the guy's sweater, you're nuts. Because then he owns them. You're going to let your captain walk? Of course not. You're the original 6 team. It's very important to you. So all these guys talking about, oh, there's no captain, there's no captain. There is. It's just Mika Zibanejad, but he's not wearing the C because he doesn't have a contract. And they're not going to put themselves in a disadvantageous position in negotiations because you already put the C on him. I'll tell you something tomorrow. He signs an extension, he's named the captain. Done. No question about it. But he's not, and he hasn't. So Kevin says they're holding the C for Laffy. Well, I'd hold it for a while then, because I don't want to put that on a kid. I don't want to do that. He shouldn't be captain until he's in his 20s, mid to late too. I mean that. I would not put a 19, 20-year-old as a captain of an original 6 franchise in this market with this fan base. This fan base is so nuts they're rooting for the Islanders. I got a lot of problems with you people. Anyway, so the biggest decision, again, is what to do at center, and by default, that's Mika Zibanejad. So I'm going to give you guys a what if, and I want to hear from you if you're watching the show. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, follow on Facebook, follow on Twitter, watch the live shows. I love being interactive with you guys and talking about all of our favorite topics, the New York Rangers. So I'll give you one more. Could the Rangers go after 2 of these guys and move on from Zibanejad? Pettersson's 22, Eichel's 24, Barkov's 25, Zibanejad's 28. One of those is not like the others. and we agree, I would think, 7 years for Barkov versus 7 years for Eichel versus 7 years for Pettersson, probably all better than 7 years of Zibanejad. And I love Mika Zibanejad, but he's 28. And in the NHL, guys turn 30 and they're nowhere near what they were. And then you're stuck paying those contracts. Look at Claude Giroux in Philadelphia. Those bastard Flyers. I mean, he has, not been himself, and he's still making $8.25 million. So you have to be careful. You don't get hurt paying. You're not going to get hurt paying for elite talent. You get hurt when you overpay for guys and then they don't change. Scott Spector, my brother, who I sit with in section 115, row 22 of MSG that I cannot wait to get back to. Look what happened when they put the C on Leach at a young age. Love this show, Scott. Love you, brother. Can't wait to see you again. And you're absolutely right. And it was always Messier's team. And when Messier came back, they put the C right back on him again. But you cannot put that kind of responsibility on Alexis Lafreniere. You just can't. And nor do you want to. You don't want to do that. Let him mature. Let him be himself. Let him do his thing. So many, I mean, they put the C on Giroux in Philadelphia so early, and they're like, oh, we got to take it off, got to take it off, got to take it off. You can't take it off once you put it on. It's indelible. It never goes away. But it also weighs people down. That letter carries a weight. Don't put that on Lafreniere, Kevin. I know your heart's in the right place with that comment, Kevin, but I don't think that's the right move. To me, it's Zibanejad, and if it's not, it's Chris Kreider. Thank you, brother. I again, October can't come soon enough. You get a big bear hug next time I see you. Lafreniere is a leader, but the letter doesn't make you a leader if you're not. Like, you have to earn it. Look, okay. Horrible example, humor me. Connor McDavid is the captain in Edmonton. He's also one of the best players in the league. But you'd be kidding, Matthews too in Toronto. You'd be kidding yourself if you didn't think that weighed on them a little bit. The C should not be most talented player. The C should really be the leader. And I can't envision a scenario where I want to put that on a 19, 20, 21-year-old. Not in New York. People care. Like, you're not in Columbus. You're not in, like, one of these non-traditional hockey markets that nobody watches the games. This is the New York Rangers. So, saving my problem is Mika, the concussions he's played in his career. I hear you. He's been on fire since when he's himself, he's an elite player in the league. But you're still then giving that money to an older player. You're not going to, there's going to be a cliff for him. We talk about the McDonough trade to Tampa and how, like, okay, you haven't really, Howden hasn't really panned out, and you love Hayek. He hasn't really panned out. And, Nemesnikov was mostly a nobody, and you gave up JT Miller or whatever. Nils Lundqvist is now the key to that trade. But what was also key to that deal, and I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, was that they then didn't have to sign McDonough. Where would this team be right now if they were still paying Ryan McDonough $8 million a year? On top of the fact that they went into a rebuild, and God knows if he would even have gone through it. So, again, I think people, first of all, I'm on record. I don't think having a captain for the sake of having a captain is all that great. The room will be fine. Okay. Just putting a letter on someone so you have a captain, I don't see it. Why do peeps want to rank on Kreider so bad and not give him the C? I think, Scott, it's because, like, we all envision his role on the team is just diminishing by the year. He was the number one left wing. Then it was Panarin because Panarin signed. Then it was Lafreniere because he was drafted. Like, Kreider's going to be a very expensive third line winger. Sorry. He's not going to finish his deal here. I mean, Kreider's a leader. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I'd put the C on him right now either, because there's a lot of uncertainty in his role on the team for years now, because he's such a streaky guy too. Like, I love Chris Kreider. Like, I have 3 Chris Kreider jerseys, and Scott, I like Kreider too. for what he is, not what he's not. And I don't think he's, I don't think he's a C guy. I think if anybody's a C guy, it's Zibanejad. They wouldn't have traded and signed Trouba. Yeah, maybe not. But I think the back end of Trouba's deal compared to the back end of McDonough's deal. Remember Callahan? We all said at the time, Callahan's not going to finish that deal. The way he plays is not conducive to a long career. I very much think that, McDonough's the same way. I think he's playing very well right now. I need to play better because this team better freaking win this series. I don't think it was going to be here. So part of the fact is you also then don't have to sign McDonough. Like, same we didn't sign Callahan. Oh, so close. Anyway, could the Rangers go after two guys, move on from Zibanejad? I think it's possible. I don't know how likely it is. Again, right now, I kind of just want to see Jack Eichel traded so that we figure out what it is. And if it's not us, fine. I'm not overpaying. I will not be held hostage. I will not be bent over a barrel for Jack Eichel. But don't fool yourselves, guys. Like, they are going for big game hunting this offseason. If you think that they got rid of the president and the GM and the head coach because they want status quo, I don't know what to tell you. They are going to be aggressive. This is going to be the summer of discontent in New York, and everybody talks about, well, they got to go get grit, Again, I ask you. I'll give you a top 9 right now and tell me where they go, because you don't want guys move to the top. I have this conversation with everybody. Oh, they gotta get a winger. They gotta get, okay, fine. Lafreniere, Panarin, Kreider on the left side, Kakko, Kravtsov, Buchnevich on the right side. Who goes? We got to keep all them. Where's your winger going to play? Fourth line? Okay, well, it's fourth line. So, again, I think they're in on centers. I'm telling you right now, I would go throw 7 years at $10.5 million to Elias Pettersson tomorrow. Match it, Vancouver. I dare you. Find the money. And if they do, cool. Same deal for Quinn Hughes. You don't have it twice. And the Rangers have the cap space. And again, do they really need... they're not going to make that 15th overall pick, but do you really think that, like, we're going to be hurting for 2 1s, a 2, and a 3? No. The cupboard is so stocked. Like, why are we worried about that? They're in such a phenomenal spot with the depth of the age of the current roster, the system, everywhere except for center. They're deep. And they're coming. So I don't really worry too much about the picks. Scott Spector. So why didn't they give Kreider the A, like the Rangers several years ago, and they had 3 or 4 players that had the A? So I'll give the C and this year and do not sign Eichel. I think Kreider had an A. I think that they were rotating road and home games. So they were split. They were 2 A's for the road, 2 A's for the home team. I want to say Kreider was one of them. I don't remember right now. But yeah, I mean, again, like we as hockey fans, I think, make too much of the letter, that you have to have a letter to show leadership. I don't know. Like I said, again, I'm not on the team, but I don't think that that diminishes anybody else's ability to lead. Kevin says they gave up 2 1s for Marty Sinewy. They make the trade in a heartbeat. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's your guy. Okay. You want to make a splash? You want to tell the league that we're not screwing around? Go get Elias Pettersson. It's a poker game. Put Vancouver to a decision for all their chips, because they don't have the money. And you're not bluffing. You have it. You got the cap space. You got the assets. Go get them. Go get the guy you couldn't get and got stuck with Elias Anderson. I would love it. That would be a move to put the league on notice that the Rangers are there, or the Rangers have arrived. And again, I think they're a playoff team next year regardless. So we'll keep an eye out what they do. Again, there is going to be a lot going on, with the Rangers this offseason, just because of the nature of it. This is it's a big market with a lot of money and a lot of fans who want this team to make the playoffs again. And again, before we get off this topic, who would you rather pay? Would you rather pay A 28-year-old Zibanejad or a 25-year-old Barkov or a 22-year-old Pettersson? Age matters, guys. It does. We'd be lying if we didn't acknowledge that. You may have heard our boy, local boy from Jericho, New York, Adam Fox, nominated for the Norris Trophy. Hey, that's great, right? Yeah, that's great. It's great that you're a Norris Trophy nominee. Look, he's absolutely deserving of the nomination. And he's absolutely deserving to win it. If you go back to Cale Makar was on a much better Avalanche team. Victor Hedman got nominated basically based on his name and reputation because he hasn't really had a very good year. As much as Adam Fox is going to have to take a hometown discount, and I think that he will. Listen, you go into those negotiations with a Norris Trophy, even the nomination, that's a heavy bargaining chip. And we asked the BlueTruth Twitter handle, if you had to pick one, only one, the most important Rangers career for the next 10 years, 72% of respondents said it was Adam Fox, not Alexis Lafreniere. Adam Fox is the single most important New York Ranger on the team or in the system, period. They don't have another one of them. Wingers they got. Centers they need. They don't have an Adam Fox. He's more important than Lafreniere. He's more important than Kakko. He's more important than everybody. And while I'd be very happy, again, I am not a big individual award guy because it's nice and it's nice for the player. It does really nothing for the team. You don't get a banner or a parade for winning a Norris Trophy. All having said that, I'd like to see him win it because he's my guy. But it does hurt the Rangers because, again, he's going to be due for a deal. I have no doubt he will take less money simply because he worked the system to find his way to New York. Forced his way out of Calgary, forced his way out of Carolina specifically, and only to go to our New York Rangers. But, hey, Chris, I got a Norris Trophy. Can I get some scratch, bud? Can I get like the $9 million a year? And he'd be worth every penny, don't get me wrong. But like anything else, it's a salary cap. And the more you pay to one player, the less you can pay to another to fill out your roster. And again, that's a problem. Again, look where Vancouver is right now. $14 million to go to find a way to sign two very, very important players on your team. It's going to be hard to do it. I don't think Adam Fox would ever leave. Adam Fox did everything to get here. So will he take less money than market value? I fully expect him to. Not a lot. He's not stupid. But I think he will take less money. Boris Demenko asks, what do you think about the future of D'Angelo? It ain't going to be here. He gets bought out. And he was never going to be a long-term fit for this team anyway. If you want my honest opinion, I think regardless of what happened with the incident with Georgiev or anything else, they signed him to expose him in the expansion draft because you're contractually obligated to Trouba for the next 5 years, and you're not giving up Adam Fox, which leaves you one open spot on the right side of your defense. And that might be Nils Lundqvist. That might be Braden Schneider, but it's not Tony DeAngelo. And Adam Fox very quickly made Tony DeAngelo obsolete. I had nothing against Tony DeAngelo. I never thought, regardless of anything else, I said this way before the incidents, that his time in this team was limited. I say the same about Ryan Strome. That's why they got 2-year deals. Because they may or may not be. I mean, I didn't think DeAngelo was, so they draft so much defense, but Strome is probably not part of the long-term future of the team. So why you wouldn't commit long-term? And don't get me wrong, I'm sure the players wanted it, but the Rangers, here's what we got. Like, I don't think Strome's on this team in 22, 23 any which way, which is why I'm perfectly fine including him in a deal for a center, because I don't think he's going to be here. Tony D is not going to get claimed by Seattle. He will be bought out. It's a cheap buyout, and they just got to move on. They missed whatever chance they had to sell high, they missed. It's water under the bridge at this point. So as we wrap up this episode 3 of BlueTruth, again, I appreciate everybody's watching the show, interacting with the show. I love you guys. This is so much fun for me. We just did an hour with the Rangers content, and it flew right by. Flew right by. I can never get sick talking about the New York Rangers. Follow the Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube as well for the shows that are recorded there. I would be remiss if I didn't close the show wishing a very happy Father's Day this weekend to all of the Ranger dads that are out there, most especially my own, who without my dad Ray, I would not be the Ranger fan that I am. And listen, I'm sure I've taken it 6 levels further than he ever thought I ever would, but it is what it is. Happy Father's Day to all the Rangers dads out there with the great parenting skills to pass the love of this team down to their sons and down to their daughters. I am doing it with my son, Braden, who now can sing the Ranger song at the age of 3 and requests it in the car. And that is a very, 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 very proud papa moment, to say the very least. So for all you guys, again, Scott Spector, again, Ranger, happy Father's Day to you, my friend. Again, I cannot wait to see you again, hopefully before the fall, but at the very least in October, to get back to the Garden. I mean, again, I think for everybody, I said this, I think in episode 1, it really feels like we're in like the end of the very bad 18-month stretch, or whatever it's going to end up being for everybody. And, we've lost important people. I mentioned the first show, Patrick Hoffman's father, Phil, who passed away early on, unfortunately, due to this, and, great Ranger dad. And there is another side, guys. I hope to see all of you again, in the Garden, cheering on this team, cheering on a playoff team and an eventual Stanley Cup champion, because the future of this team is still very bright. It hasn't changed. And the fact that they brought in my special pick for head coach gets me very excited. Very, very excited. Scott Spector still has my Ranger vodka. That's how long this whole thing has been. He went and bought these 3 bottles of vodka for me, and then the world fell apart, and I haven't been able to get them from him. Ay vey, guys. Anyway, Scott, yes, I will add them to the Ranger room. I have a very specific place for them. I haven't seen it. It is what it is, bud. We'll get there. And of course, yes, we will absolutely miss Phil in 115 Road 22 for sure. But that's the end of BlueTruth tonight, guys. Thank you so much for the time. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully, again, you're following on the social medias. We want to continue doing this, through the off season. I think we're going to try to every couple of weeks, just to kind of make sure that we don't get stale, that we don't kind of repeat the content. But obviously, look, the draft is coming up. The expansion draft is coming up. Free agency is coming up. And at any moment, some big thing could drop in Rangerland in this aggressive off season that we're all expecting. So, follow us, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I'll be putting the news out, breaking it down. This is our favorite topic, so it never gets old to talk about. Hopefully you will continue to watch the show. I am your host, Brian Attard. Thank you for watching the show. And that is the truth on BlueTruth. We'll see you next time.